These are trying times for Jaguar. Recently, all talk has focused on doom and debt. There was the embarrassing foray into Formula One. 4 barren years netted just 2 podiums. They continue to get pummeled in the sales charts by Audi, Mercedes and BMW. Over the last 2 years, Jaguar has recorded losses exceeding £1 billion. They even stopped making cars at Browns Lane, Jag's ancestral home, for 50-odd years. So drastic was this move that it was discussed in Parliament. If any company needs to reinvent the wheel, it's this one. And they've chosen to start with an all-new XK. It's amazing to think that the previous XK is now some 10 years old, so we were long overdue a new one. And this new XK is supposed to be a much sportier drive to appeal to a much younger crowd. But to be honest, styling-wise, I think it's mainly going to appeal to the Jag faithful. Yes, its lines are clean and crisp, smooth and sophisticated. I just fear it wanted something a bit more radical to really bring in a whole new set of fans. Inside, well, apart from the addition of a new hatchback, the conservative theme continues. Jaguar owners will instantly feel at home, cosseted by plenty of cow and tree. There are some modern-day concessions like touchscreen controls, keyless door entry and an electronic parking brake. Also gone is the famous Jaguar J-gate. Now it's just a sort of reverse L, with all manual gear changes done by paddles. And all this is all yours for just under £60,000. Now, Jaguar reckon when it comes to big sports cars, there are 2 types. Comfy grand tourers like the BMW 6 Series, or hardcore handlers like the Porsche 911. The XK is supposed to be the best of both worlds, which is usually PR speak for something that's compromised. Initially, there's only one engine option, a lightly breathed-on version of their trusty old 4.2-litre V8, which purrs away rather too quietly underneath the bonnet. It's now got an extra 6 horsepower, giving it a grand total of 300 bhp, which doesn't really sound that much when you think that Aston Martin have tweaked the same engine up to produce 380 horsepower. The chassis engineers have done hundreds of laps of the daunting Nürburgring to fine-tune the suspension setup, and it's much improved. So now we're no longer sitting on a roly-poly platform, we're sitting on a car that can turn very obediently to the steering. We don't have a vicious ride quality though. It's got just the right amount of feel of the road without ever being jarringly uncomfortable. Steering feel is the same, nicely weighted, although not quite giving me all the feel I'd like, and you occasionally get reminded as the nose pushes wide as you push it into a corner, it understeers off your line. You have to remember that you are still in a big car. This new XK might be lighter, but it's still 200 kilos heavier than a Porsche 911. The best and perhaps worst parts about this new XK though are its gearbox and its gear changes. Stick it in S in auto and you've got the best auto box I've ever driven. On the upshift it's right on the rev limit, seamless, smooth changes. But even better when you're braking heavily, it changes down very early, which is very reassuring under braking. Stick it into manual, you've got the same sort of instant gear change. But the only trouble is where they put the paddles. But if I'm teaching performance driving, I'd say you stick your thumbs on the top of the spokes and then you gently wrap your fingers round the back of the steering wheel. Now if you do that here, you can't get round the back of the steering wheel because the paddles are there. So you put them round the back of the paddles, and then when you start doing any energetic cornering, you keep on making gear changes you didn't want to make. So what are we left with? Well, there's no doubt in my mind that Jaguar can be very proud of this new XK. It's a stylish, fast, comfortable grand tourer in the very best traditions. And perhaps its greatest strength is its smoothness, those smooth gear changes, the smooth ride quality, the smooth steering. It's just that I wanted something, well, something a bit more exciting. This may be the XK Cabriolet. Of course, it doesn't really feel that different. It's virtually the same car, apart from the fact they've chopped the roof off, and then to make up for some of the loss of stiffness, they've beefed up the chassis. So this convertible is actually 40 kilograms heavier than the GT, and more importantly, £6,000 dearer. Unfortunately, beefing up the chassis isn't quite enough. Not only is the car heavier and more expensive, it doesn't handle quite as well. When you press it into bends, you can begin to feel the chassis isn't as rigid. The car can't take the same sort of cornering speed. It rolls a bit more and doesn't quite have that same crispness. But this is one occasion where the Cabrio is the one I'd go for. Having the soft top provides the option to inject a bit more excitement into the driving experience. With the sun beating down and the wind rushing past, the finer points of handling and speed don't really seem to matter. The new XK is a good coupe, but a much better cabriolet.